This is Part 2 Episode 126. In order to maintain this star region prison, they would definitely not be able to act as they pleased. Otherwise, if the star region were broken and this 3,000 burning flame were to be let free, Holy Pill City would be destroyed by it. Xiao Yan, what should we do? Xiao Ying and Dan Chen softly asked while standing behind Xiao Yan. At this moment, Xiao Ling and old Mu Jiyu were engaged in an intense battle. Their main pillar of support seemed to have become Xiao Yan. The expression of Song Qing became a little green when he saw this. However, after some hesitation, he could only unwillingly stand behind Xiao Yan. What else can we do? We are unable to intervene in those two places. Currently we can only watch and wait for reinforcements from the Pill Tower. Xiao Yang's expression was a little solemn as he replied. Xiao Ying and Dan Chen widened their mouths when they heard this. They looked at each other and could only nod. The two battlegrounds in this region really did not have any room for them to intervene. While Xiao Yan was speaking, space itself had suddenly rippled. Wave after wave of a vast, mighty strength surged out. After which, it gathered on the 3,000 burning flame. Following the pouring in of this vast and mighty strength, the black line symbols began to emit a glow again. Clearly, the three great heads had intervened. Roar! Faced with the increase of the strength of the seal, the 3,000 burning flame fire dragon's eyes revealed a crimson color. Today was the best chance it had to escape captivity. Although it was unable to do anything against the three great heads of the Pill Tower, they were also unable to kill it. If it did not take the opportunity to flee today, it did not know just when it would have to wait for the next opportunity to appear. The seal of the three great heads, during these years, had caused it to suffer. A destructive aura suddenly spread out of its body while a bright redness rose within the dragon eyes of the 3,000 burning flame. The corner of Xiao Yang's eyes involuntarily twitched as he sensed this destructive aura. His extermination lotus flame also possessed this kind of feeling. It seemed that this 3,000 burning flame was playing with its life. Roar! A low, furious roar continued to reverberate over this empty space. The purple-black fire on the body of the 3,000 burning flame suddenly wiggled. After which, it swiftly agglomerated in front of everyone's stunned gazes. Within the short blink of an eye, a strange, black flame, that caused one's heart to tremble, suddenly appeared. Finally, the flame split apart, transforming into tiny black fires that landed on the enormous body of the 3,000 burning flame from all directions. The deep black flame dripped onto the body of the 3,000 burning flame. The black seals began to swiftly collapse. However, this tactic seemed to exhaust a great amount of energy, because the glint within the eyes of the 3,000 burning flame fire dragons seemed to have become dimmer. You still only have these methods after all these years. Do you think that you can seal me for eternity with them? Although it greatly exhausted the strength of the 3,000 burning flame, there was an excitement forming within its eyes. It had thought of all sorts of ways to break this seal that had pestered it for many years. The body of the 3,000 burning flame continued to struggle. The black symbols swiftly scattered. Although the majestic energy that spread out was continuously being replenished, it seemed to be far from being able to catch up with the rate of damage. This is bad. The 3,000 burning flame is about to break the seal. Seeing the thinning black lines of the seal on the 3,000 burning flame, the expressions of Xiao Ying, Dan Chen, and Song Qing became a little paler. Being members of the Pill Tower, they were clearly aware of just what kind of damage would be created once the 3,000 burning flame escaped. Compared to the pale expressions of these three, Xiao Yang did not reveal the slightest anxiety on his face. If the 3,000 burning flame were to really escape from its seal, the chances of him subduing it would increase. Doing this might pose some risk, but as the saying went, one could seek fortune from danger. Currently, he could not be bothered. Ha ha. Xian Kongzi, this time around, it is your turn to fail. That 3,000 burning flame suddenly raised its enormous dragon head just when Xiao Yang's eyes were flickering. A thunder-like laugh resounded over this empty space. Crack! The laugh had just sounded when the enormous body of the 3,000 burning flame violently rotated in the empty space. Immediately, a breaking sound suddenly appeared. Xiao Ying's group involuntarily trembled upon hearing this breaking sound. The seal has failed. With the sound of a slight cracking sound, the star region became dead quiet. All activities came to a sudden halt at this instant. Immediately, old Mu Jiyu and First Elder Xiao Ling, who in an intense battle, hurriedly withdrew by over a dozen steps in unison. After which, they quickly turned to the 3,000 burning flame. Under the focus of everyone's eyes, the unusually large body of the giant fire dragon lingered in the sky. At this moment, the symbols made of black lines on the densely packed dragon scales had disappeared. Although the eyes of the 3,000 burning flame dragon had become slightly dimmer after breaking the seal, the fierce aura that emitted threads of annihilation caused those present to be afraid. Damn it, Xiao Ling's expression was green as he looked at the 3,000 burning flame that had escaped the seal. He let out a soft curse in the process, since he knew that things had currently become a little troublesome. Who could stop the 3,000 burning flame that had escaped the seal other than the three great heads? Ha ha! Compared to the ugly expression of Xiao Ling, old Mu Jiyu had a face that was filled with excitement. His feet stepped forward as he laughed. Congratulations on having escaped. However, is it possible to carry out the things we discussed earlier? Relax, as long as you remain in my Hall of Souls for 1 year, we will definitely return your freedom. I dare to guarantee you on this point. Olumugu's tone treated the 3,000 burning flame as an extremely powerful expert. Of course, the 3,000 burning flame was an expert, possessing intelligence. This old fellow has performed a transaction with the 3,000 burning flame. The hearts of Xiao Yan's group tightened upon hearing the words of old Mu Jiyu. The gigantic dragon eyes of the 3,000 burning flame glanced at old Mu Jiyu in front of him. An extremely human-like cunningness flashed across them as a low, deep voice was emitted from its large mouth. There is naturally no problem with the matter that we discuss. However, I must tour this world first. After that, I will head to your whatever Hall of Souls. The corner of old Mugu's mouth twitched upon hearing its words. His smile was slowly withdrawn as he said, putting it this way, you intend to break your promise. You humans are all the same. You want me to trust you. Dream on. The 3,000 burning flame fire dragon's eyes revealed a chill. It had suffered great losses to the hands of humans. Although it did not know just what kind of powerful existence the Hall of Souls was, it was not a fool. It clearly understood that the other party merely wanted to obtain its essence flame. Old Mugu's expression had become completely gloomy. Although he had expected things to not would be smooth, he had not expected the 3,000 burning flame to take back its words this quickly. Xiao Yang by the side quietly sighed in relief when he heard the conversation between old Mu Jiyu and the 3,000 burning flame. It seemed that both of them had malicious intent in their hearts, despite their cooperation. Xiao Ling had also understood the situation. He hesitated for a moment before displaying an expression to Xiao Yang's group. The group slowly withdrew some distance. If old Mu Jiyu and the 3,000 burning flame ended up fighting, it would naturally be best for them. With the strength of old Mu Jiyu, he would definitely be no match for the 3,000 burning flame. After they were to have a vicious fight, it was likely that the trouble outside would be resolved. At that time, the experts from the Pill Tower would intervene, and would definitely be able to take care of both old Mu Jiyu and the 3,000 burning flame. Old Mu Jiyu slightly knit his eyebrows as Xiao Yang's group withdrew. He was aware of their intentions. However, this was not the time to think about such things. Although this 3,000 burning flame was strong, he needed to bring it back to the Hall of Souls today regardless of what happens. Since you do not want to do things nicely, you should not blame the old me for not acting righteous. The Pill Tower might not be able to deal with you, but my Hall of Souls will be able to let you know what is called a fate worse than death. Old Mu Jiyu gently spread his shriveled hand under his sleeves. His tone had also become exceptionally dense. A black figure tore through space, just after old Mugu's voice sounded. It carried a terrifyingly hot wind as it violently slammed toward his head. This sudden attack had startled old Mu Jiyu. His body flashed and appeared over 100 feet away. After which, his eyes were dark and solemn as he looked at the 3,000 burning flame as it swung its enormous tail. His hand was clenched and a bright silver jade plate suddenly appeared in his hand. Subsequently, he shattered it. Following the shattering of the jade plate, an extremely powerful spatial strength suddenly surged out. It immediately tore a crack in the space beside old Mu Jiyu. When the crack line formed, 3 human figures wrapped in black robes slowly walked out of the spatial crack. After these human figures walked out, 3 vast and mighty auras suddenly swept around this empty space like a storm. Even the 3,000 burning flames' large eyes revealed a seriousness in the face of this majestic storm. Honorable elders of the Hall of Souls. Xiao Yang's expression abruptly changed when these 3 mysterious black figures appeared. He had not expected old Mu Jiyu to still possess such a trick. The thing that caused Xiao Yang's heart to sink was that he had discovered that the strength of these three mysterious, black-clothed people was not any weaker than old Mu Jiyu. 4 Dozuns. Such a lineup was something that even some top-tier faction in the Central Plains did not possess. However, this Hall of Souls had taken them out so easily. At this moment, the terror of the Hall of Souls within Xiao Yang's heart once again rose another level. Spatial Jade Plate, the Hall of Souls is really well prepared for this 3,000 burning flame. Xiaoling clenched his teeth as he spoke. His eyes were gloomy as he looked at the 3 figures that had walked out of the spatial crack. Xiao Yang's eyes blinked. The so-called Spatial Jade Plate was likely the thing that old Mu Jiyu had shattered earlier. However, he did not wish to think about this now. Old Mugu's side had gained the support of powerful reinforcements. It was likely that even the 3,000 burning flame would have difficulty fighting 4 elite Dozuns. Although the 3,000 burning flame had fought with the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower for many years, it did not mean that it truly possessed the ability to fight with the 3 great heads. After all, the 3 great heads had only intended to seal it from the beginning. Sealing it and killing it were 2 different matters. The 3,000 burning flame might be called an undying flame, but if the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower really wanted to finish it off, they were not without options. However, they did not wish to go to that extent. Each heavenly flame was considered an extremely rare thing to an alchemist. Moreover, these heavenly flames could only be formed after thousands or tens of thousands of years. It would really be a waste of precious things if they were randomly destroyed. Of course, the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower would rather spend a great amount of effort to build the star region and seal the 3,000 burning flame rather than destroy it, but the Hall of Souls was clearly not such nice people. They would definitely not leave what they could not obtain for others to enjoy. Mu Jiyu, your effectiveness in doing things is really poor. The 3 of us have waited for such a long time before receiving the summoning of your spiritual imprint. One of the 3 black figures that had stepped out of the spatial crack spoke in a hoarse voice. Do you really think that the Pill Tower is some ordinary people? Old Mu Jiyu frowned and coldly replied, there is no need for these unnecessary words. We do not have much time. Once the chaos in the outside world calms down, it is likely that the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower will hurry over. Just the 4 of us alone are no match for the 3 of them. Just make full use of the time. The Hall Chief views this plan with great importance. If anything goes wrong, all of us will suffer. Another black-clothed person faintly spoke. The remaining people became quiet upon hearing the words Hall Chief. Old Mugu's face also slightly twitched. His eyes revealed a terror. Let's act. Do as we have planned. As long as we obtain the essence flame of the 3,000 burning flame, our mission will be considered a success. Old Mu Jiyu inhaled a deep breath of air. His eyes were dark and dense as he glanced at the distant Xiao Yang. Old Mu Jiyu felt an extremely dense killing intent for Xiao Yang in his heart. However, now was not the time for revenge. Hence, he could only forcefully suppress the killing intent in his heart. Form the formation and prevent the 3,000 burning flame from absorbing the strength of the stars. Old Mu Jiyu coldly cried out. His body took the lead to rush forward. Immediately, the 3 others also rushed in 3 different directions. After which, they surrounded the 3,000 burning flame. 10,000 ghost-devouring spiritual formation. Ice-cold cries were emitted from the mouths of the 4 of them. Soon after, a strange, black fog surged out of the bodies of these 4 people in all directions. After which, the fog swiftly spread. The interior of the black fog was filled with an unusually dark coldness. There was even a vague ear-piercing screech continuously being transmitted from the black fog. With the spread of this strange, black fog, the strength of the stars that had been seeping in was blocked. Damn humans! The 3,000 burning flame roared furiously after sensing this change. It had just broken the seal. Naturally, it did not wish to return to a slumber in complete darkness. Its enormous mouth was widened and a purple-black flame appeared, just like a fire pillar, as it was spat out of its mouth. Space itself formed numerous distortions wherever the flame passed. Crash! The expression of old Mu Jiyu and the 3 others slightly sank in the face of the wild and uncontrolled retaliation by the 3,000 burning flame. Old Mugu's hand seal changed with lightning-like speed. A dark, cold fog suddenly emitted waves of metallic sounds. The black fog fluctuated as over 100 large, strong, black chains shot out of the black fog. They perforated the fire pillar that shot over. After which, they appeared just like numerous large pythons as they swept over from all directions. Finally, they transformed into a large web that covered the 3,000 burning flame. Beast, there is a good path for you to walk, but you wish to take this path to your death. Today, the old me shall fulfill your wish. A ferocious expression flashed across the eyes of old Mu Jiu as the chains erupted. A cold cry suddenly exploded from his mouth. 10,000 soul heavenly lock. After the cold cry of old Mu Jiu sounded, countless numbers of dark black chains made from an unknown material rushed out of the black fog in all directions. After which, they crossed each other before ruthlessly restricting the large body of the 3,000 burning flame. The chains shook and they firmly pestered the 3,000 burning flame. Roar. The 3,000 burning flame erupted into a furious roar after being sealed by these chains. Its large body wildly struggled. The purple-black flame continuously surged out of its body and burned the dark black chains. The purple-black flame lingered over the chains and many sharp, miserable cries were emitted. Waves of black fog continued to surge out of the chains as they went all out to block the burning flame. Crack. Under this all-out struggle by the 3,000 burning flame, some dark black chains were broken. Black fog surged at the spot where the chains broke. Some vague, tiny, savage faces appeared in the fog, causing them to appear extremely strange. Old Mugu's expression changed slightly when he sensed the great pressure that had suddenly unfurled. He had indeed underestimated the 3,000 burning flame's strength. However, he was also well prepared for their actions today. He immediately let out a cold snort as he sternly cried out, "Biting soul." The other three black-clothed individuals slightly nodded upon hearing his stern cry. Their hand seals changed. Murky, black fog suddenly poured out of their sleeves. Finally, it transformed into a countless number of souls with ferocious expressions that cried out in a miserable manner. After which, they collided against the enormous body of the 3,000 burning flame from all directions. Bang! The ferocious souls, with black fog surrounding them, had just touched the body of the 3,000 burning flame when they were burned by the purple-black flame into nothing. Even though they were burned up, their numbers were unusually terrifying. Tens of thousands of souls controlled by the black fog appeared, just like moths pouncing into fire, as they charged toward the 3,000 burning flame with a suicidal craziness. Xiao Yan's expression was slightly ugly, as he watched the screeching souls burn to nothing by the 3,000 burning flame. These fellows from the Hall of Souls were extremely cruel and evil. They used souls as cannon fodder, a tragic method. These bastards. Xiao Ling's expression was green as he grit his teeth and cursed. Xiao Yan was quiet. Although this method of the Hall of Souls was cruel, it must be said that its effect was quite good. Dealing with the suicidal attack of the souls from all directions, the 3,000 burning flame, which had exhausted a great amount of energy escaping the seal placed by the three great heads, purple-black flame gradually weakened on its body. Roar! The 3,000 burning flame had clearly sensed the flame weakening. Immediately, a bright redness surged within its dragon eyes. A roar resounded over the empty space, and its enormous body was just like a gyroscope as it began to wildly rotate. Immediately, 100-foot-large firestorm was formed within this black fog. The purple-black flame storm swept all around. The dark black chains that were pestering the 3,000 burning flames all crumbled. A terrifyingly hot suction force surged out of the storm, wildly absorbing the black fog that permeated the air around it. After which, the lingering purple-black flame completely vaporized it into nothing. Bang! This intense retaliation by the 3,000 burning flame also caused the expressions of old Mugu's group to change. That terrifying heat was transmitted through the chains to their hands, forcing the four of them a couple of steps back. Only then did they stabilize their bodies. They raised their hands and discovered that their entire hand had been charred black. I have indeed underestimated this beast. Seeing that the combined effort of the four of them was still unable to seal this 3,000 burning flame, a grave expression flashed across the face of old Mujiu. Immediately, he inhaled a deep breath, and a savage look flashed across his eyes. Sacrificial life soul lock. The remaining three black-clothed figures' hands became sluggish upon hearing old Mugu's cry. They looked at each other before looking at the terrifying suction force of the firestorm. They could only violently clench their teeth and change their hand seals as fast as lightning. Immediately, a stern cry was emitted from their mouths. Life Soul Lock appear. Rumble. Their stern cries had just sounded when a wave of unusually clear, metallic sounds appeared. Xiao Yan's group was surprised to see 4 black fogs, 10 feet in size, suddenly erupt from old Mugu's 4-men group. Black fog dawdled as 4 dark black chains, 100 feet in size, appeared like 4 savage pythons. The dark black chains appeared extremely majestic. The surface of the chains were filled with strange seals. Countless faces, filled with mournful expressions, gathered on the chains. The moment the chain was unleashed, a terrifying, deafening cry continued to be emitted, causing Xiao Yan's group to slightly frown. Even the Life Soul Lock has been formed. Looks like these fellows have also ended up in a battered state, because of the 3,000 burning flame. A gloating smile flashed across Xiao Ling's face, as he spoke after watching what was transpiring. What is this thing? Xiao Yan asked out of curiosity. The tactics of the Hall of Souls are extremely mysterious. I am not too certain about this so-called Life Soul Lock. However, I do know that this is the final move of the Hall of Souls' honorable elders. The Life Soul Lock is connected to their souls. If this thing is damaged, they end up facing extremely serious damage to their souls. Therefore, they will not take out the Life Soul Lock unless they have no other choice. This thing might indeed be powerful, but the risk is too great. Xiao Ling glanced at the battleground before replying. Xiao Yang slightly nodded after hearing this. This Hall of Souls was indeed mysterious. It was actually able to practice such a strange thing. Form the Life Soul Lock formation. A fierce glint flashed across old Mugu's eyes as he cried out loud when the Life Soul Lock appeared. The cry had just sounded when 4 incredibly large, black chains immediately penetrated through the air while being accompanied by an earth-shakingly miserable screech. They appeared outside of the firestorm in a flash. After which, they emitted puff sounds as they shot into the firestorm. The enormous locks surged into the fire from one side and exited from another. After which, they found another direction to enter it. This continued for just a couple of times before the 4 enormous chains had firmly entangled the storm. Creak. The firestorm's wildly rotating speed was forcefully reduced because of the entanglement of the 4 enormous chains. Finally, it completely stopped. Roar. The storm halted and the 3,000 burning flame within it immediately appeared in the eyes of Xiao Yang's group. One could see that its large body had been penetrated by the 4 enormous chains. The chains passed through its body and meandered over it, trapping it. Seeing that old Mu Jiyu had forced the 3,000 burning flame to such an extent, Xiao Yang involuntarily inhaled a breath of cool air. The combined strength of 4 Dozuns was indeed terrifying. Old Mu Jiyu stared at the flame, which had gradually ceased struggling after being trapped by the chains. A strange smile involuntarily appeared on his face. His heart rejoiced a little. Fortunately, the 3,000 burning flame had been exhausted when it had tried to escape the seal of the 3 great heads. Otherwise, the 4 of them would have really found it difficult to completely subdue this untamable beast. All of you should lock it. I will take its essence flame. Excitement flashed across the eyes of old Mu Jiyu as informed the other 3. When he looked at the 3,000 burning flame, it was struggling in a weak manner. Be quick. The life soul chain is barely able to trap it. We will not be able to endure for long, a black-clothed person replied in a deep voice. His tone revealed a frailness. The level of difficulty in dealing with the 3,000 burning flame was far beyond their expectations. Old Mu Jiyu nodded. A deep blue flame surged out of his body. Finally, his body moved, and he arrived in front of the head of the 3,000 burning flame. He looked at the flame, who was struggling with all its strength. He involuntarily and ferociously laughed. You have refused to comply when asked nicely. This is your fate, beast. Do you regret it? Old Mu Jiyu did not pause while he uttered these words. He appeared at the forehead of the 3,000 burning flame, where the broken dragon scale was. At that spot, there was a 5-foot black hole. The 3,000 burning flame's essence flame was hidden within it. Old Mugu's eyes looked at the black hole. The green in them became even richer. However, just as he was about to charge over, the 3,000 burning flame ceased its struggle. A fierce glint flashed across its enormous dragon eyes. When the 3,000 burning flame ceased struggling, an uneasiness rose within the heart of old Mu Jiyu, but before he could ponder what it was doing, a small, purple-black dragon rushed out in a lightning-like manner. Along the way, the purple-black flame still felt suppressed like its body. Following this suppression, the purple-black flame swiftly rotated, transforming into a dark black color that chilled one's heart. A destructive aura was vaguely emitted from the little, dark black dragon's body. This beast is crazy. It dares to take its essence flame out by its own accord. Old Mugu's expression drastically changed upon witnessing this scene. Before he could recover, the dark black, little fire dragon had flashed in front of him. After which, it violently collided with his body. This collision, which did not appear to be fierce, caused old Mugu's face to turn pale. A mouthful of bright red, fresh blood was spat out. His body also flew backwards, after appearing to have suffered a serious blow. Grab it! Old Mugu wildly roared in a furious manner, after being violently sent flying. A good opportunity. Xiao Yan's eyes had landed on the small, dark black dragon with lightning-like speed after old Mugu's roar had just sounded. A wild joy surged across his eyes. The 3,000 burning flame that he had dreamed of had finally appeared within his reach. This video will end here.